Future Media's OneAfrica TV talks to SWAPO Central Committee member and parliamentarian Dr Tobie Aupindi about his memories of Dr Sam Nujoma. I am Selma Taapopi.
Look, President Nujoma was like a maverick, avid, dynamism, charisma, decisive. But one of the things, I met President Nujoma in 1981. I was only a child in the liberation struggle because I was amongst those who were brought up in the liberation struggle. I was brought up in the camps, refugee camps, SWAPO refugee camps in Angola and in Congo. At the time, it was not fashionable to be SWAPO. A lot of people. SWAPO was always that engine of socio-economic change that President Nujoma championed for future national independence. And I think for him, having known him as a person, he was just really very friendly, but very visionary, very decisive. But one of the best things that I can give you many personal examples, but I'm probably going to focus on the bigger picture. One of the things that stands out is that when I met him, and he imparted in the children of the liberation struggle that eventually will have to pass on the torch to you, because no one knew how long national independence, the national liberation struggle was going to go for. It could have gone on for 20 years, could have gone on for 30 years, could have gone on for 100 years. So the children that were brought up within that framework of the refugee camps, of the liberation struggle, were always going to be the future defenders of the Namibian revolution. And for them, they needed to be prepared. And he said, you must be. It takes discipline, courage, loyalty. Those shall be your principle. And he has always told me that no matter what, you should never give up. He was a pioneer. He was an inventor. He was a founder. He was one of the few chosen leaders probably by God to lead nations, to lead continents. Because remember, President Nujoma was part of the creation of the OAU. He was part of the creation of the non-aligned movement. He was part of the creation of the Overambulant People's Organization, which transcended into, together with OPC, into the Southwest Africa People's Organization, SWAPO, a vehicle that he formed with other, formidable cadres for them to fight for the liberation of Namibia. What you can say about President Nujoma, he was very solid. He was very visionary. He kept the revolutions together as both the commander of the People's Liberation Army of Namibia plan, but also as the president of SWAPO. And his steadfastness, his commitment to freedom and independence, his visionary that better days lies ahead of us, I think that's probably one of the greatest memories that you can ever honor in President Nujoma. One of the greatest things about President Nujoma, his thinking and his visions and his theories is about the greater good of society. I have never met anyone whose sole purpose, whose sole thinking, his sole embodiment is just about, it's not so much about himself, it's not so much about vanity or personal things or fancy things, it's about the greater good of society. He single-handedly and narrow-mindedly thought only about the common good the greater good of our society. His legacy will transcend time. President Nujoma may not be here now, but he will never really die, because the theories and pragmatism and practicalities and visions that he's always held dear to will perpetuate through time and in the perpetual survival of the Republic of Namibia in time immemorial, when we are long gone. Visions that will pass on to our children and our children's children. Now, those are the fact that he is, you should remember that as a colony, through the years that Namibia has suffered, the German adventurism, the English years, the Boer apartheid colonial oppression regime, which dehumanized people. The others who took up arms, like Hosea Kutako, who sent him into exile, into a land of unknown, of mystery, with no guarantee of return, just with one single-mindedness that you must never come back until you bring Namibia's freedom and independence. And you should look at it in context that this man is the founder of this republic. He is the one who, there was no Republic of Namibia before. There was Southwest Africa, a colonial protectorate under German imperialist, and later on under apartheid South African regime, ruled from Pretoria as an extension of colonial oppression and dehumanization. So he came in, he led the international solidarity, international society to mobilize the cause of Namibia. When it was not even sustainable, he mobilized for weapons. He created SWAPO. He institutionalized within SWAPO the People's Liberation Army, and armed that because these people are not listening, we are going to go for the armed struggle. Maybe they will listen then. And the successes that he had in many battlefields that were fought by many formidable plant fighters, but so much sacrifice was given. Many people, many Namibians who were crossing over into exile, they lost their life in the war of freedom and independence. And that's why we always say that their blood waters our freedom, is because there was a just cause. Some of us, as children, we didn't grow up in normal environment. People growing up in homes, we were brought up in the camp, no parents. Because as soon as you get there with our parents, the children are taken away because the parents had to go and fight for freedom and independence. As if that wasn't enough. After the attainment of independence, when he proclaimed, remember, he proclaimed Namibia will be forever free, sovereign, and independent, and that no one can ever try and take that away from us. So he went in again in state formation. Everything you are seeing today about the Republic of Namibia, the government of the People's Republic of Namibia, with all its institutions, it was always President Nujoma who created those institutions. He led with inspiration, with hope, but he also led with decisiveness. And he was a very no-nonsense leader. He was a very, very no-nonsense leader. He led with a, you know, whenever we, like SWAPO Central Committee, he was chairing the Central Committee, the Political Bureau, and obviously his cabinet as the President of the Republic. He didn't allow discussions to just be discussed just because you want to discuss. They must be scientific, but they must be substantive, and they must be, at the end of the day, they must be decision taken. And when he took the decision, he followed up on that decision. And when he gave you a directive, you better carry out that directive, and he will give you all the support and all the ammunition that you need to carry out the directive. But at the end of the day, he was a doer. He was a super administrator, a strategist par excellence. Because he was such a humble person who cared only narrow-mindedly about the greater good of our society, he brought, the first thing that he cultivated was that a country that is divided was never going to achieve economic growth. That is why you see, for example, when we gain our independence, the people we are fighting against were our friends and countrymen of Afrikaans origin and the white minority population. But he realized that there is no more need for bloodshed. In other countries, when independence was achieved, all the people who perpetrated colonial oppressions, they just ordered a killing spree, and people had to be evacuated and be chased away from those countries under serious threat of their lives. Some of them were killed. But President Nujoma said, we are not going to kill anybody, whether you are an Afrikaans, you are a German, wherever you come from, whether you are part of the black people who were oppressed, we are going to mold the Republic of Namibia, the Namibian population, into one united front, fighting for common good of our society, which is Namibia. That is what he said. So he had a way of convincing both enemies and the other side, the people who were fighting against apartheid imperialism, to come together and see a picture that is bigger than themselves. Common purpose, common vision, common objective, and eventually as citizens of one nation under God. He really went out and counseled people, because you have to remember, as we came from exile, we went to fight for Namibia. Some people were out for blood. Some people from his side were saying, why are we reconciling with these people? We defeated them. We must deal with them. But he went on and said, look, there has been enough bloodshed. It's time now for nation building and national reconstruction and nation building. It's time for national development, and that's what President Nujoma did. And the policy of national reconciliation is a policy that is deeply enshrined in the belief that, that we are who we are, and we are our brother's keepers, and that no matter who you are, where you come from, whether you come from Tsumkwe, you come from Karasberg, you come from Sesfontein, no matter who you are, where you come from, who your parents are, what the color of your skin is, you can make it if you really try. And that nobody should stand in your way because of the language you are speaking or the village you come from. That every opportunity must be availed to a Namibian woman, child, and man. That is the national policy of reconciliation that Nujoma propagated. Having known him since 1981, like personally, when he came, he always, wherever I went in the liberation struggle as a child, because SWAPO moved their children to different environment, different camps. For example, I was in Lubango, then Dalatando, Kwanza, I went on to Ludima in Congo. Now, one of the things that, the best example he has ever given me is that you should never give up, ever. You should never play to theater. You should never play to popularity contest. He said there will always be people who are going to have a contrast view to your view. The important thing is not to play to that, commonality or play to publicity stunts. You must play to what your heart really tells you to. But one thing he added on to that is the common good. He said, look, Namibia is endowed with natural resources that today, if you look at it, for example, we have people in our country that are enjoying relatively plenty, and that is not bad. It's actually good when we have Namibians that are thriving and doing very well. Whether they're black people or they're white people, it is good for people to thrive. But he also said there are also people who are not thriving, who are suffering, who don't have access to housing, to healthcare, to proper school, potable water. And he's saying that is also not acceptable either. And therefore what we need to do, and this is what he always told me when I was in exile as a child, that our fight is a just cause for genuine independence, so that every Namibian will feel that they are part of the entire Namibian family, where everyone has access to natural resources. So surely he was always propagating to say, natural resources, if you are a genuine leader representing the Namibian revolution, you must therefore feel sorry, and you must therefore work your blood out to ensure that economic resources are spread across all Namibians. And I think that and he even convinced me to return to graduate school to do my PhD. When he was doing his geology course, he said, "Look, I'm challenging you. You are as a child of the Namibian liberation struggle. Surely you can't think that sitting on a master's degree is good enough. There are so much to learn." He called me to his office. He said, "There are so much to learn. Why are you still sitting on the master's degree?" He said, "Return to graduate school and do something else. Do a PhD." And I did a PhD. Just out of that, because he was challenging me, because he believed so much in education. He said, look, education is the greatest equalizer. And he said, they can almost take away anything from you. But that, as long as you are educated, you are a graduate, no one can take that away from you, no matter what they do. And if you look at it, I've went through so many challenges in my life, but no one can take away my education. And the Sam Nujoma legacy about the greater good of our society is about, I think, humility in leadership, leading with the people, the people's needs, hopes and aspirations at the center of our heart. That is what I remember about what he has always advocated for. It would be a lie to say that President Nujoma's now passing does not have a profound effect on all of us. It's true he was aged, and he was blessed to live a long life. But it is also true that we are hurting. We are devastated. We are in pain. But one of the things about President Nujoma, what people can take away from his life, the Namibian nation should have hope, and the world, because this man didn't belong to us alone. He belonged to the world. because he was a global icon. He was an African icon, a Pan-Africanist. Contemporaries that have found the Republic of Namibia and set it on a trajectory of future economic stability and sustainability. And therefore, in Namibia, as Namibians, as you are hurting, we must hurt, but be hopeful. Because what will live on in us is the little Nuyomas that are multiplied because of his visions. Sam Nujoma has set the vision. He has set the strategies. He has set the value propositions. And therefore those, I feel, will perpetuate through time. And what we need to hold on to is his love for Namibia, his love for Namibian people, his vision for a Namibia where everybody is enjoying the fruits of Namibia's independence. That therefore, no matter how much pain we must be in, we must remain strong, knowing that God is always going to carry us through. He's always going to be in control of our life. He will, and he blessed us with the President Nuyoma's life and legacy, and it is the legacy that we must carry forward and deliver it to future generation. And by doing that, we are bringing imagination to common purpose. And only when we do that, and with humility, we will be able to deliver the much needed economic emancipation and opportunity for our people. And I think that's what we must always hold on to. In that way, we will never remember how he died. We'll only remember how he lived.